Hello everyone, Saturday, March 12th, 8:22 a.m. And first and foremost, say a prayer for my son today as he will be making his first confession. So he will be receiving the sacrament of reconciliation for the first time. So say a prayer for him this morning. His name is William. Next, I'm going to post a link in the description box below to a video put out by, I believe it's Watchman News, in regards to a recent call to arms, I guess you could say, by Putin. And Putin has put out an invitation for Middle Eastern fighters to come and help his cause in Ukraine. And his call to arms is, we need to defeat imperialism once and for all. And he knows what to say to get the Middle Eastern fighters on board. And so a lot of people, this isn't even being reported yet in the mainstream news, by the way. I did find a couple articles on Yahoo and things like that. And understand the 16,000 that are set to come, apparently, they have no way of knowing how many are actually going to come. Because what happens with these movements is they all bring their buddies with them. So it's going to be more than 16,000. And Ukraine, with its secular, high heel wearing, atheistic, humanistic presidents, is going to be in for a rude awakening when forces like Hezbollah show up. And that's exactly what's going to happen. So if you don't understand the dynamics of the Middle East, I'm not going to give a full explanation because honestly, I don't know all the ins and outs there either. But I do know this. I do know that Iran and Russia are at least informal allies. Casual allies. They support the same causes. We can look at places like Syria and see things like that. I do know that the U.S., for whatever reason, is dead set on giving Iran nukes. Do you know that? I also know that in January of 2020, President Trump killed, let me get his correct name, I do know that in January of 2020, President Trump killed Qasem Soleimani, the general, an Iranian major general. And he was killed at Baghdad International Airport. And why was this important? Well, obviously the liberal left lost their minds. Trump is mean, blah, 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 blah. Well, I have something to say about that. And first of all, this general was in charge of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Okay, and so it's complicated, but long of the short, he was the mastermind behind the EFP. Now, what is the EFP? Well, the EFP is an explosively forced projectile, which differs from an IED, which is an improvised explosive device. The EFP is much more targeted. The EFP was the solution to the fact that the IED was not effective once the American allied troops started armoring their vehicles in Iraq. Okay? So the EFP was much more targeted, explosive, and it could basically be compared to a shotgun. The shotgun of bombs, if you can imagine that. So they would plant them on the side of the road. They would aim them at the turret, which is where the gunner is. Sometimes they would also aim them in the front, so to take out the driver and the team leader. And basically there was two types. One was more like a slug, which was those were usually just one projectile, like a slug, if you think of a slug of a shotgun shell. And then others would fragment out like a buckshot. Okay, so how do I know about these? Because on August 28th, 2008, Specialist Michael Gonzalez was a gunner in the truck behind me. in a convoy in eastern Baghdad, kind of near the Iranian border. And so he, after 2 EFPs missed my truck, by the grace of God, because obviously somebody was looking out for me that day, our convoy stopped. And about 10 minutes later, another explosion went off and decapitated, basically, Michael. So that's how I know about EFPs. And that's how I know they did originate with an Iranian influence. So when I was in Iraq, there was no such thing as ISIS, which is a creation of the West, which is a creation of Obama and his Muslim Brotherhood. There was no such thing as ISIS. We didn't fight the Taliban. We fought the Mujahideen and Hezbollah. Now, the average Iraqi really was clueless. Yes, they were corrupt. They would get paid off. We would supply the Iraqi police, which was our job to train the Iraqi police. We would supply them and the Iraqi army with weapons. And then people like this lovely general would come in with his special elite people and buy everything up. So we now have a situation where Putin is calling on people who want to avenge the death of Mr. Soleimani here, calling on them, and make no mistake about it, they know our tactics, they know Western tactics, they understand guerrilla warfare, they're battle hardened, and they're well funded, and a lot of them have our equipment and our weapons. So they also have good weaponry. It's not like what they show you on the news where they're shooting off AK-47s in the desert and can't hit a target. It's not like that. Maybe at one point it was, but that's not how it is anymore. These are well-trained, well-armed, well-funded fighters with a chip on their shoulder. So Ukraine and his high-heel dancing president is in for a rude awakening. And these Americans and these Europeans have no idea what can of worms just got opened. Why don't we understand? Because we're too interested in being nice. We're too interested in democracy and enlightenment and who everybody is sleeping with and rainbows and unicorns and holding satanic conventions in Arizona and making sure we do everything we possibly can to kick Christ the King out of our lives. We'll understand something. When all hell breaks loose, the Satanists and the gays and the transgenders and all these people who think they're on the right side of things are going to be the first one to lose their minds. They're going to be the first ones to cry themselves to sleep at night. Okay? Because guess what? There is no woke agenda in the Muslim countries. There is no woke agenda in Russia. They're very serious. They're not playing make-believe. They don't play make-believe. They have a chip on their shoulders. They are disciplined religiously for the most part. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. They fast. They pray, even if it's heretical into a false god, they do these things. And so on a natural level, they are disciplined in a way that Americans in the West are not, because we decided we just want to kick our king out. So when we kick our king out, quite literally, our kings here on earth during Christendom, and our king up in heaven, Jesus Christ, well, when you lose the king, you lose the protection. Newsflash. So the same people that don't want the burden of acting like a Christian can't protect themselves. So it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And so we're prancing around arguing about nonsense, canceling the world, including Putin, including Donald Trump, including just anybody who has an altering opinion. We're just canceling, and we have sold our soul. We have sold our soul to the European Union, to NATO, to the World Health Organization, to all these globalist agendas. We have sold our soul. So we have this illusion that we're protected, that we're going to be protected because we have weaponry and we have this idea that we're so advanced technologically and things like this. But they now have all our technology, just so you know. They have all our equipment. They have all our stuff. I know because I was there in 2008 when things were shutting down. We shut down an Iraqi army base. I understand what got left. We weaponize these different groups, such as ISIS, who then get infiltrated and bring their weapons, sell out our weapons to our enemies. Like, this isn't hard to understand, but we can't understand it because we are delusional. We are in this bubble of filth, and we have to clean off the outside. We have to clean the window in order to see it, but people don't want to clean the window. And so this is the situation we find ourselves in, and it's very serious. Ukraine is in for a rude awakening, and those people need a lot of prayers. They need a lot of prayers. And I'm not saying this to scare anyone, but listen, even if Putin stops in Ukraine, these Muslim fighters will not stop. They will keep going. Once they fight in Ukraine, they'll be emboldened. Maybe they'll go to Germany. Maybe they'll go to Poland. I don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but I know this is bad. Giving them a foothold like this, where they could potentially make Ukraine their headquarters, is not good. So go right ahead and argue about which gender you are, and kick God out of the public square, and hate the Catholics for not giving you a choice and murdering your child. But understand, when it comes down to it, you better be able to defend yourself. Because it's the same people who just want to live in an enlightened democracy that don't even know how to shoot a gun. Not that I even think guns at this point in America I don't know. I'll leave that alone. I don't see America ever being invaded like that, but who knows? And so then we can go on to see how these people that want to avenge this General Soleimani, I don't even think I'm saying his name right, nor do I care, have plotted against John Bolton, a former Trump official, a former Trump member, administration member. An assassination plot has just been uncovered. And so these people are already in America. Probably, I don't know about if they're on a large scale or not, but our southern borders wide open, things like that. So while you're living in La La Land, you have to understand what's going on. So don't act surprised when all hell breaks loose and your life is endangered and bombs start falling from the sky. Okay? I'm very serious. Don't act surprised when you can't drive down the road without something exploding. I'm very serious. This is not a joke. This is not a drill. This is real life. This is what we can expect to see, at least in Europe, in the future. Don't act surprised when you can't attend Sunday Mass safely. Not that anybody does anymore anyway. And this is the cost of secular humanism. This is the cost of your democracy and your enlightenment and throwing off the yoke of God and celebrating sin. This is the cost of selling out your soul. Where the kingship is weak, the powerful oppress and destroy. So while you think Christianity is so mean and awful, and kings and monarchies are terrible, and authority is bad, and everything needs to be democratic so we can all have a say, understands that that's not the way that most of the world works, number one. And the people who don't work like that will 100% pounce when given the opportunity. And that's what's happening. So congratulations to the woke agenda for not only making the West the laughingstock of the world, but quite frankly, putting every Western child on this earth in a grave state of danger, not only physical danger, spiritual danger. So thank you. From the bottom of my heart. Joan of Arc Media out.